This is about liberty. This is about freedom. It is about cleaning house from the corrupt politicians pandering to special interests.
Now is the time. We know what needs to be done. It ain't about us. We're doing this for our country. We will stand and be heard. We will be silent no more.
So get up off your ass, get those boots on the ground, and let's do this thing.
Supporters of Ron Paul's presidential bid are suing the Republican National Committee. They're accusing the RNC of improperly helping Mitt Romney throughout the Republican nomination fight, and they're challenging rules requiring many Republican delegates to vote for the winner of their state's primary or caucus at the convention. In an internal memo obtained by CNN today, the RNC is calling the lawsuit, quote, frivolous. Ron Paul stopped active campaigning, but he and his delegates are still hoping to influence the convention at the end of August in Tampa. Congressman Paul is joining us once again from Capitol Hill. What's your reaction to this lawsuit, Congressman?
Well, I've heard a little bit about it, but it's not part of our campaign.
Are you okay just being associated with some of your supporters who have filed this lawsuit?
Am I associated with him?
No, are you okay being associated because these are all your supporters who have actually filed the lawsuit?
Well, if they have a legitimate argument that they can make and that's what they want to do, I'm not going to say don't do it. If they ask my advice, I'm going to say don't. I didn't motivate them to do it.
Okay, we're back. So just to kind of recap, Ron Paul was asked by Wolf Blitzer, what would he advise lawyers for Ron Paul to do, essentially? And Ron Paul basically said, well, if they were to ask me, I'd tell them not to do it. However, if they feel that they've got a good ground to stand on, hey, do you. But me personally, I would not engage in that activity, and I am also not associated with Lawyers for Ron Paul at all. So my first question to you is this. Being that Ron Paul is not on board with this action, first question, what is it you hope to accomplish as a group outside of Ron Paul?
Well, let me say first, Derek, that if this is, I didn't get to hear the clip you played, but if it's the Wolf Blitzer interview from 2 or 3 weeks ago, that you added more things than Ron Paul actually said. He did say that if they had asked his advice, he would not have advised us to do it. But he did say that if we had a case, to pursue it. But that's all he said. The other things,
I think that's what I just said. I did just say that.
You added that he said he had nothing to do with the Lawyers for Ron Paul.
He did say he's not associated.
That issue was not even raised. So I just want to clarify that you added things that were not in what he said.
Okay.
But be that as it may, he has not denounced the lawsuit at all. He has not said, hey, you guys stop it. In fact, we have several quotes. We have a very good video guy who put together an excellent composite of about 2 minutes worth of Ron Paul quotes, and several times over the course of the campaign, he said there is election fraud, and if people know something about it, they should pursue it. But he just said, personally, if they had asked me, I would advise them not to. But he didn't say, therefore, they shouldn't do it.
Okay, so Ron Paul then, since I made the statement that Ron Paul is not Lawyers for Ron Paul, you're saying he is affiliated then,
no,
correct?
No, I'm saying I have never heard Ron Paul address the Lawyers for Ron Paul.
Okay, that's fine, but that's why I'm asking you.
A video someplace, but I've never heard him get asked specifically about the Lawyers for Ron Paul.
Okay, well, I'm asking you myself, is Lon in any way the group Lawyers for Ron Paul or this process?
No,
so he's not. Okay, so that's what we're trying to get at.
we have no official association with the national campaign. We have not talked, as far as I know, personally with Ron Paul. We have had some communications at high levels with people associated with the campaign, but we have not been endorsed by the campaign. In fact, we saw something that came out as another deflating kind of email the other day that said that even if all of the delegates were unbound, Ron Paul can't win. This is the cheery note that supposedly Ron Paul wrote and sent out to everyone. You know, the campaign, I mean, let's face it, the Ron Paul campaign, and this has nothing to do, I think, with Ron Paul, except the difficulty he has in choosing staff people maybe and keeping them too long. But the Ron Paul campaign has botched so many opportunities this year. They've totally mishandled the grassroots. They said nothing about election fraud. They said nothing about the media's treatment of Ron Paul. They said nothing about the unfair format and the way he got very little good coverage and was really treated poorly in most of the debates. They said nothing about that. We all knew on the internet about that, but they said nothing about it. We had Iowa election fraud. They said nothing. We had problems in every state. They said nothing.
I get the point, but in essence of something else, because I think we're all aware of what the media has been doing and things that we have not heard. So that brings me to this next question. Do you not think that Ron Paul is not aware of what's going on and what's not being said? Do you think that he's somewhere sitting in a vacuum and is completely unaware of what it is we think he ought to be doing?
I think that Ron Paul knows a lot more now than he knew a month ago.
Okay,
I mean, his family, he has family members and a huge family, and a lot of them are going to be all over the internet. They're going to be wanting to see what Grandpa's doing or seeing what Dad's doing and so forth. And so I'm sure Ron Paul knows about what's going on right now. But I think for the most part, my guess looking at the campaign, as late as it was for me to figure it out, I would think and what we've seen, I think for most of the campaign, he's been in quite a bit of an insulated bubble. People that I have known him for 30 years and helped him in campaigns can't get through to him. He's just, think about this. Ron Paul is 76 years old. He's an American hero. He's got 5 or 6 kids, up to 20 great grandkids and grandkids. He's a full-time congressman, and he's been running for president. He has to necessarily delegate a whole lot of what he does and trust people. But we have seen, people who were more aware than I was of what was going on in 2008. It's very common for many of them to think the campaign was sabotaged in 2008. I mean, one of the guys working for the McCain campaign who was watching the Ron Paul people in the Oklahoma delegation, Minneapolis, at least 2 nights, was Ron Paul's ex-campaign manager. And he was not a friendly. He was looking at us just like we were vermin almost, and he was like some hot-headed Secret Service guy, and he had another guy with him too. So, I think, and evidently the guy that was the true blue guy, the philosophical guy that had a heart for everything, Kent Snyder, had an unfortunate bout with pneumonia as a very young man and died in the fall of 2008, I think. So, I think the campaign's just been infiltrated. How else do you explain neocons like Bruce Fine and, being paid as advisors, and Trygve Olsen, who's helped do color revolutions around the world? These guys are right deep into the whole bankster military-industrial intelligence complex. And so they have great influence on the campaign. And you can just look at and this is, I wasn't the first to start figuring this out. My first clue was our Oklahoma experience because it was disastrous. But other states had the same kinds of things. We had our parking lot convention in Oklahoma.
I don't want to rehash, if you don't mind. We already know about. People have asked me about the infiltration, the ignoring, and I've always said, and I still say, I trust Ron Paul's judgment till I see different, because the bottom line is this: going back to 2008, going back 30 years, Ron Paul has gotten progressively better in terms of his reach and his awakening people. So I am not going to sit back and say until the last ballot is cast until Ron Paul says it is finished. I am not going to sit back and pass judgment as to whether or not Ron Paul is some old guy who is being kept from the truth. I think Ron Paul is a little bit smarter than that, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt until I see something contrary. Do I believe that there are people out there who don't have his best interests at heart or that have been co-opted? Of course I do, but I believe Ron Paul is smarter because Ron Paul has been doing this for a long time.
Eric, after we had the heroic parking lot convention after they illegally adjourned the Oklahoma convention, and 2,000 people at a time were watching on Ustream. They sent in 100 pizzas and cases of water, and we were showing the rest. We had learned from other states, and we were showing the rest of the states what to do. And Arizona did a parking lot convention too. And the very next Monday, on May the 14th, comes Jesse Benton's announcement that they're officially suspending the campaign and will no longer actively campaign in any of the primaries, including Ron Paul's home state of Texas and California.
Because they changed strategy. And
they said it's because of lack of money. But think about it. When the word went out immediately, and this is totally predictable, the word went out immediately and said Ron Paul had quit his campaign. They said, oh, no, he suspended it. But the damage was done. If they had run out of money, they could have just kept their mouths shut. They didn't have to announce anything.
Ron Paul announced that they were changing strategy, not in so many words. But again, we can put whatever spin we want. Ron Paul has not quit, and that is all that matters to me, and that is what I focus on. But let's get back on point with lawyers for Ron Paul, because I don't want to second chair how Ron Paul is handling his campaign. I want to deal with the issue of how lawyers for Ron Paul are going to help the campaign, more importantly, the liberty movement. So you mentioned earlier that Mr. The attorney, he is one of several. Is he in fact one of several, or is he the only attorney that's working with Ron Paul? Because I've heard people ask this several times, and I've seen things floating around that, well, it started out with no attorneys, and then they got this one guy, Gilbert, and then other people that say, well, there are other attorneys involved. So can we get an official word? Is he the only attorney, or are there other attorneys involved? And if so, who are they?
Richard Gilbert's the only attorney I know of, but that's not to say that he doesn't consult with other attorneys.
Okay, all right.
He's the only official one that I know of, and he has been the whole time that I've been involved. You know, the lawyers for Ron Paul started out as a Facebook group, and that was before they met Richard Gilbert. So they were talking about the legal fraud issues at that time.
Okay. Well, look, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we will get right back to you. So hang tight while we take this break.
Imagine keeping a third more of your income. You could support an entire family with that income. Imagine the life you would enjoy together. Imagine families reunited after years of war. Imagine America restored, a city set on a hill, a guiding light to all nations. Imagine Ron Paul as president.
All right, so we are live. Just for a quick recap for those coming lately of what we have covered thus far, we have gotten a word from you, Mr. Davis, that you are not officially associated with the Ron Paul campaign, as it were. We talked about the Wolf Blitzer interview. There is one attorney officially that you are aware of, and that is Counselor Gilbert. And you guys started out originally as a Facebook group. Am I correct so far?
I believe so.
Okay. I am also a member of that Facebook group, and I have been asked by several people that have seen my posts there, TMOT, what do you think about Lawyers for Ron Paul? And I would tell them, I have no problem with them. I've never heard anything bad about them. And until I do, I'm not going to sit and say something about somebody that I know absolutely nothing about, other than they are supporting Ron Paul and working on a lawsuit for the cause of liberty, so to speak. Just want to point out, folk, if you'd like to call in, the call-in number is 646-378-0496. We will be taking callers, so call in and I'll be notified. So with what I just said, Mr. Davis, what specifically and briefly, if you can, what is the purpose of the lawsuit, so that everybody gets it straight from, the horse's mouth? What is the goal of the lawsuit?
Well, the goal of the lawsuit, I'd say it's twofold. The official goal is that, the lawsuit is about this. It's about exposing election fraud by the Republican Party and the Romney campaign that's been egregious and rampant. And we're asking for the judge to give us as our sole remedy the unbinding of all of the delegates at the convention in Tampa. And once we get those delegates unbound, then every delegate will realize they actually get a chance to vote for their own conscience. And hopefully we can then have an open convention and try to get a much better choice than what's being stuffed down our throat right now. So the lawsuit itself is, we have over 300, I think about 326 plaintiffs last time I looked, and about half of them or more are national delegates or alternates to the convention in Tampa. And we're asking the judge a simple question. We have a section of the law, I don't have it at my fingertips right now, but it's a section of the law that's voting rights, civil rights law, that basically says that each individual delegate or person has a right to vote for the presidential candidate of their choice according to their own conscience, and to be free of all coercion, intimidation, and threats of any kind. And election fraud is exactly that. It's coercion, it's intimidation, and it's threats. Cheating in voting machines, cheating in county or conventions, those are all fraudulent activities, and those are a form of coercion or force. And so we are asking the judge to say, we're asking, Judge, here we have federal law that says every activity involved with a political process to nominate and elect a president of the United States falls under the Voting Rights and Civil Rights Acts that protect our right to vote our conscience. And yet over on the other hand, Judge, we have all of these various party rules, not just GOP, but Democrat, that can change at any time, and they have their rules for how we're supposed to play the game. And then you have where they have gotten together through state legislatures, and we have state statutes. So we're saying, Judge, does federal law have jurisdiction in a federal election to elect a president of the United States, or do state statutes and GOP rules nationally and in the states, do they have greater jurisdiction? And just by asking the question, it answers it, because an election to elect a president of the United States is a federal election by definition. And you have to have certain standards and uniform procedures in a presidential election so you don't have vote fraud, and so that everybody gets treated equally according to voting for president. You can't have states depriving some people of their rights to vote for president when other people have greater freedom. So everybody has to have the freedom to be unbound and vote for their conscience.
Okay, so the first goal is to get a judge to state that these people should be allowed to vote their conscience and not to be held hostage via intimidation or rules that are set up by the RNC or the DNC, what have you, correct?
Or voter fraud. I mean, here's the deal. Voter fraud in this country is so widespread and so pervasive that we just take it for granted. I mean, everybody jokes and talks about how crooked politics are. And we've seen through people like the work of Jim Condit and Bev Harris that they can easily program voting machines to give any result they want. And we see all kinds of shenanigans and hijinks at political conventions. So we have a massive vote fraud that's disenfranchising every voter in the country.
Okay.
Because fraud, let me just finish the statement here. If Ron Paul had been allowed to win Iowa, which every indication was he was going to win Iowa, then he would have had more momentum and would have done better in the other states. But because of the election fraud in Iowa, he did more poorly. And by doing that, he disenfranchised you and me and everyone else that wanted to have a chance to vote for Ron Paul for president. So everyone has a grievance in this case.
Okay, but we're talking two separate issues. So are those the two issues that is the goal of this lawsuit, that you are trying to fraud on one hand and then the ability for delegates to be unbound and vote their conscience? Those are two separate issues. Is that what the lawsuit is about?
Well, they're sides of the same coin. The election fraud is the reason for the civil suit.
Okay.
The remedy for the election fraud is to unbind all of the delegates.
Gotcha. And that was a simple statement that I was looking for, because see, I want everybody out there to understand in simple terms, because sometimes when you folk tend to get lost in translation, but that's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Here's what you might want to imagine. Imagine if the judge hears this case in the first week of August. Say he hears it by the 10th and he unbinds all the delegates. Well, that's 2 weeks before the election. And we're asking him to also dictate that written notification of being unbound goes to all of the delegates. We're furthermore asking to have U.S. Marshals on the ground and in Tampa to protect our constitutional voting rights and civil rights. The fact is, last year, 4 years ago, operating inside the convention was like operating inside a high security prison. We had no rights in there. Ron Paul people were followed, they were watched, they were searched. If you wanted to raise your own sign up that even said, "I love John McCain," you couldn't even do that.
I've been there, and we've heard many a story, so we're aware of things that have been taking place. But I want to spend as much time trying to get to the meat of what's taking place to answer the questions. We all are aware of that. We have a caller on line 5503. Caller, do you have a question? What say you?
Yeah, I have a question, or like maybe a comment, I guess. When are we going to realize that Rand Paul is the answer to all the things that we talk about nowadays?
Okay, this is not about Rand Paul. Do you have a question concerning the lawsuit and lawyers for Ron Paul, sir?
Well, maybe not necessarily.
Okay, well, it was great having you on the air. We'll catch you another time. All right, getting back to on point, Mr. Davis, what we were talking about. Okay, so we are dealing with the election fraud. The remedy for that is to unbind these delegates and to provide some protection when it comes time to do our voting. Is that
yes.
accurate?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right. With that being said, it has now been surmised that in the plurality of some of the states that Ron Paul has won, I think the number is 5 or somewhere around in there, that he will more than likely be in the nominating pool anyway. If that be so, is the lawsuit, in your opinion, is it still necessary?
Oh yes. We've had election fraud. I mean, it's a crime.
Okay.
Election fraud is a federal crime, and we need redress. I mean, if we're going to do anything to restore our republic, we have to start cleaning up our elections.
Okay.
So this could be a landmark case. So it's very important. This is not just, a tactic we're using to help get the nomination for Ron Paul. This is for the entire nation. And who wants to be, I mean, we used to look down our noses with disdain at banana republics and looking at in Latin America, military dictators operated their countries. Well, we have the same thing going on here. We're just a lot more sophisticated about it. We don't have a free press. I mean, there's like 5,000 or 6,000 families in the whole world that own all of the banks, basically, all the big banks, all the media. They control the politicians. So, we don't really have a free press here. We need we don't have freedom, and we need to have free elections so we can begin to restore our country to where it needs to be according to constitutional principles.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. So we are trying to deal with bigger issues. When I talked with you earlier about the tree for the forest, that's dealing with the forest. So I understand where you're coming from.
And here's something else to think about. Imagine if all these delegates get unbound 2 weeks ahead of time. They know they are unbound. I mean, most of them were not hardcore Romney people to start with. Now, maybe in some of the states where they've come in, like Massachusetts, and yanked out the Ron Paul people and just put their own Romney people in, maybe they were dyed-in-the-wool Romney. But I know in Oklahoma, I know a number of delegates that have been quick to tell me, they're on the official slate. We have a contested slate thing going on in Oklahoma because of Oklahoma Republican Party election fraud, and that's a separate issue going on. But I've had some of those official slate delegates tell me they never were for Mitt Romney, but they, the whole game all along for years and years and years has been, well, we have a big primary and then we all unite around the candidate at the end. And that's how America got to the place where we have very little difference substantively between Barack Obama and Mitt Romney. I mean, Mitt Romney has been whatever you want him to be, and he agrees with all these wars. He agrees with the NDAA. He agrees with the Patriot Act. He agrees with these FEMA concentration camps.
Mr. Davis, really, I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't want to spend rehashing what we already know. See, most of the Paul supporters, we know that, so we good on that. So let's stay germane to the subject here. We have another caller, line 4664. What say you? Call on line 4664. Going once?
Yes, this is Arkansas.
Okay, sir.
Can you hear me, Tim?
We hear you just fine. What's your question?
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to Mr. Porter. My question is, as the highest Republican official in Arkansas to join the suit, I'm facing continual intimidation here. It seems like there's a hit list of Ron Paul supporters, and they're shoving us out of the party. What can the suit do for us in the meantime?
So you're a plaintiff right now?
Yes, I'm a plaintiff, and David had my name last Thursday when he went to court, and I'm telling you that we need protection because they're taking actions each week and each month to shove us out of the party. I'm under investigation now for not being a proper elector. They're going to have a vote, and if they can get enough people there, they'll vote me out of the party.
And what is your position?
I'm the first vice chair of the 4th Congressional District, Republican Party of Arkansas.
Well, if you're a plaintiff in the lawsuit, Richard Gilbert is your attorney. And one of the things about being a plaintiff is you're supposed to have litigation privileges. Have you called Richard and said, hey, this is going on here?
Yes, I've talked to Richard, and I've explained the intimidation to him, and, I've done my email homework to get my information to him, yes.
So has he not responded?
No, I haven't gotten a response, but I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that we're facing continual intimidation, and it seems to be an organized method. It's not just my committee, but it's committees all over the state that are using the same methods to extract or expel Ron Paul supporter people. They have a list of it.
How are they doing that?
Well, they'll have a nominating committee to an important event like being a delegate to the state convention, which sets the platform. The nominating committee simply excludes the Ron Paul supporters, and they do this through no rational basis. They've actually, talked amongst each other and come up with a hit list. I was excluded even though I've been working in the party for years, and, Some of the people who I signed up in the party this year were included, even though they skipped over me. I complained and I became a delegate, but the others are, not everyone who supports Ron Paul is able to stand up for themselves. And that's why I joined the suit, because as the highest official in Arkansas, I feel like I've got to stand up, for my rights, or they're going to see the example of booting me out, and they're not going to have as good a chance.
Caller, thank you for that call.
I would hope that Richard is going to get back to you soon with some help on what to do next. But we're seeing this all over the nation right now. And, of course, in Arkansas, as I understand it, your official Paul campaign representative was not helpful at all. So, we're fighting the party and fighting the campaign.
So, Mr. Davis, to answer his question, is there anything specifically that he can do right now, or that the lawsuit can do right now to assist him? Yes or no?
Well, he needs to contact Richard Gilbert. I mean, that's what I would say. Richard's his attorney, and Richard should be responsive. If he's not being responsive, then that would not be a good thing.
What would he do in that case? I don't know how long
he's had it, but I can't tell him what to do there. But one of the best things to do is what you're doing, Derek, and it's exposing the truth about things. People need to know, but ultimately, you guys in Arkansas need to do what we need to do in Oklahoma, and just out organize these people, and just you've got to train your own group, and you've got to out organize them, and when you do that, then you can control these committees, unless they've got some kind of insulation from popular vote. And then there may be, if they have insulation where you can't even get through them through democratic processes using the rules, then you might have grounds for a statewide lawsuit of some kind there.
Okay. All right. We've got another caller on the line, 7716. Caller, line 7716. What say you?
Hello?
Caller, 7716.
Hi, Mr. Davis. I don't know. I came to the meeting late. Did you already address the motion to dismiss that was filed? We have 4 days to file a response back.
I did not address that. I have not seen the motion to dismiss, so I can't really speak to that.
Yeah, basically we have 4 days to respond, and if we don't respond within 4 days, the lawsuit is dismissed. So if we respond within the 4 days, then the defendants have until noon, July 27th, to respond, and there is an August 6th date set to go over the motion to dismiss. So I didn't know if you could clarify that. That's what I've gathered from the litigation documentation that I've been looking at through the PACER system.
Really? Well, you know more about it than I do. When was the motion to dismiss filed?
Let me look at my documentation here.
Caller, while you're getting that, we'll let you pass that on to Rudy. We're going to move on to the next caller.
I just haven't talked with Richard about it. I know they filed one, and I just assume he's taking care of it.
Okay.
It was filed the 5th, July 5th.
Well, he better have taken care of it if he only has 4 days.
Yeah, 4 days, by noontime. So I didn't know if you were in contact with him, if he could give us a statement or something. But then August 6th is just to go over the motion is dismissed. So we don't have much time till the convention, the hearing on August 6th until the RNC. How much time do we have till we have something tangible to use?
Well, I was talking with one of the support guys today, and he basically is expecting that the judge is going to hear this case sometime in the first week of August. And that doesn't necessarily answer your question in detail, but that's basically what I know.
Okay, well, we're going to go with that. We won't speculate on what we don't know. So let us move on. Caller on line 0210, what say you? Going once.
TMOT?
Yes, this is TMOT. How you doing?
Yeah, good, man. Appreciate all you do, and more of a comment than a question, but if the political parties are going to use government funding, then along comes the government rules. And as far as the rules go, We need to keep plugging away and taking over the GOP. So I just want to thank you for holding the show and appreciate all you do.
Not a problem. That's the whole purpose of Ground Wars, to get people educated so we can all get out there and do what we need to do in this fight. This is not just about Ron Paul, or it is also not just about this lawsuit. We just happen to be talking about the lawsuit, which is just one of many things that are going on in this liberty movement. Let us move on. We're going to take a break for a couple of minutes, and we will be right back.
Imagine keeping a third more of your income. You could support an entire family with that income. Imagine the life you would enjoy together. Imagine families reunited after years of war. Imagine America restored, a city set on a hill, a guiding light to all nations. Imagine Ron Paul as president.
Go to the gentleman back here. Please identify. Let's get a microphone to you.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. I'm Major Christopher Miller of St. Charles County, United States Marine Corps, retired. I just served 27 years in the Marine Corps, retired less than a year ago, and moved here to Missouri. I've served multiple combat tours as an explosive ordnance disposal officer, disarming bombs and leading bomb disposal technicians in combat. I'm tired of these wars. Our Marine Corps is tired of these wars. The whole armed services are tired of these wars, and we're tired of these so-called Republicans and so-called Democrats that give us the same garbage, who are no different from one another. We are tired of it. Ron Paul is the only candidate who represents any change. We're tired of the Obama change and the Obamacare and all the other Obama garbage. I do not believe that Mr. Romney, Governor Romney, is going to give us anything else than more Obama garbage. We need real change. We don't need more of the same. Our country cannot stand any more of the same. We need real change.
We're back live. It felt real good. It always does. It feels good today. Okay, getting on to some of the other questions concerning lawyers for Ron Paul. What I want to ask you, what we covered, basically the last question that I asked was whether or not the lawsuit was necessary if Ron Paul were to get the nomination, and you explained that there were issues that needed to be addressed, like election fraud. Those things need to be dealt with, and I completely agree. So by all means, continue to do what you're going to do. My next question is this. I have heard rumors that there are those that want this to be heard on the opposite side, so that they may gather a list of those who are seeking to be unbound, so that they can change the rules if you lose and prevent them from doing what the objective is, and they can be targeted, so to speak, a hit list. What do you say to people that are concerned about divulging a list of let's say stealthy Ron Paul supporters?
Well, I think it's a contrived issue. In the first place, I don't think there are really very true stealth Ron Paul people. I know in Oklahoma there aren't. I mean, people in the party know other people, if you're affiliated with Ron Paul or not. That's the big question. So I think the stealth delegate issue is a red herring. But if somebody wanted to stay stealth, then they shouldn't be a plaintiff. I mean, right now, they're not taking any new plaintiffs. They have a waiting list going. We may not have any new plaintiffs added. Again, we might, but right now we added a bunch. We're up to 326. But we'll take more witness testimonies. But in terms of being targeted and hit, that's already happening. Just look at Nevada. Just look at Massachusetts. Look what they're doing with known Ron Paul people. They're throwing them out right now, and they're, we had a person in Oklahoma that was scared that we were going to upset the apple cart. Of course, that person's concern had to be that they didn't want to have the delegates unbound because they thought there was enough of a stalemate that Romney would not get the nomination on the first ballot. But I've never seen any figures to support that. I think the idea that Ron Paul has hundreds of stealth delegates there waiting to spring up and pull off their day clothes and don their Superman togs, I think that's a fantasy. I just don't think that's going to happen. It's assuming people don't know who's in their own state. So, but there may be retaliation, and the retaliation question is certainly a good one. I'm a plaintiff there, and they're going to know who I am, but they knew who I was before. They do dossiers. Carl wrote a great article on this 4 years ago, and every delegate and alternate has dossiers written on them. They know what's going on, and if you don't think they're going to have the Ron Paul people under huge surveillance right now, we're crazy. I mean, it's going to be huge surveillance. They don't want anything to happen. They want a stage-managed convention with this show of fake unity that all the Republicans have come together, kumbaya behind Mitt Romney, just like they did behind John McCain 4 years ago when he got his drum thumped by Barack Obama. Now we have the guy that lost to Obama is going to be the presumptive nominee in Miami. So, I mean, the truth is, I think that the lawsuit is our last chance right now to get Ron Paul the nomination, barring some kind of a spiritual awakening where bound delegates that are even for Romney between now and when we have the convention realize Romney is going to lose unless they decide to fix the election machines. Americans aren't going to fall behind that guy. But who knows? Maybe they'll make Obama just worse and worse and worse. I mean, he looks bad all the time too. So I don't know. I've given a lot of answers to I guess your question, but I don't think it's an important issue. But we could face real. They've broken bones in Louisiana. They broke the guy's hip. So we could face retaliation. The security guards 4 years ago were like Blackwater Secret Service types, and they were not for fun and games. They weren't mall cops. So who knows? They could hurt us.
Okay, so then your official word is you think it may be a red herring, but you think we have for the nomination. So is it fair to assume you think that it's worth the risk?
Well, yeah, and the question you're asking made more sense 4 or 5 weeks ago, but also to bring it up now is just of historical interest. We have 326 people who stuck their necks out, much like the signers of the Declaration of Independence did, and they weren't afraid to stand up and be in this lawsuit and sue the Republican Party in their state and nationally, and to face the repercussions of doing that. I've talked to our national committee woman. I told her I'm a spokesman for the group that's suing the RNC. And so, they talk about this lawsuit, but I'm friendly with her. She and I agree on a lot of issues. And so this is all about election fraud, and we want fair elections. And I don't care what the party is. They better not cheat.
Okay. All right. My one more question in this area, and then we're going to move on to something else. And that question is, we talked about it earlier, but I just heard you say that you think that this lawsuit is the only chance Paul has for receiving the nomination or being in the nomination pool against Romney. That being said, so you see no chance at all in this collective of states that Ron Paul has won to this date that would get him there as well. You don't see
something different than you are, I think, Derek. And it seems the question you're asking is, do we have a plurality to get Ron Paul nominated so he can give a 15-minute speech and then have an election. That's not what I'm talking about. I think we can certainly do that. You know, I think a proper reading of Rule 40, Ben Swan wrote about it today, and we can have a plurality of delegates without having a plurality of bound delegates. Okay. It's two different things, but the nomination I'm talking about is to be the Republican candidate for the presidency to be on the ballot against Barack Obama in November. That's what I'm talking about. And if we want to see Ron Paul to be the nominee, I don't see any other way short of unbinding all of the delegates. There may be a miracle that all the bound delegates by state laws and state GOP rules might stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do it. But I think if they're unbound, there's a much greater likelihood that we're going to have other people stirring and raising up candidates. We had 8 or 9 candidates talking about it before, and I think we might actually have an open convention. We could end up with somebody besides Romney. We could end up with one of the other candidates who's there or somebody else.
Like Gary
I keep
Johnson,
thinking but I want Ron Paul to get the presidential nomination. I mean, my goal is not to get him 15 minutes of speaking time at the convention, because most of America is not even going to watch it anyway. They're bored with those conventions. They know they're staged events.
Well, I can't imagine a Ron Paul supporter, a Liberty supporter, even somebody who supports Gary Johnson not watching Ron Paul speak. So that's beyond the realm of possibility.
I'm not talking about Ron Paul people watching Ron Paul speak.
Well, the only ones we're concerned about are the ones who get it. The only ones we care about are the ones who get it. We have we're going to take a 5-second short break, and then we're going to come back with a caller.
Okay.
Okay, we are back. Okay, we have a caller on line 1326. Caller on line 1326, what say you?
Hello, Mr. Grayson and Mr. Davis. Thank you both very much for your time. My name is Mac. I'm also an American patriot, and I talked to you the other night, Mr. Grayson. Thanks for taking my friends list. My question, sir, is about Nebraska. What's going to happen with Nebraska? I've been hearing things about since Ron Paul didn't get enough delegates, that he's not going to be in the running. I'm not totally sure about that. The other two things, if you could just simply address this, was I've noticed there was no vetting of Romney since his dad was born in Mexico and all that. If you could touch on that as well, I'd appreciate it. And finally, the last thing is about holding our leaders to their oaths of office. Now, is there some possible way that we could hold their feet to the fire on this and start filing federal claims to do whatever legal action we can to them for violating that oath of office? And that is for violating our constitutional rights. And that's all I had to ask you.
Thank you very much, caller. We'll let Mr. Porter Davis answer those questions for you, if he can remember them. I think there were about 3 or 4. Go ahead.
Covered a lot of ground there. Let me just say, I think too much was made out of Nebraska. I even saw several people talking about it, Ron Paul's last stand. Well, I think that's as much disinformation as anything else. I've seen a number of things without getting too deeply in them. I've been so busy this last 3 or 4 days, so I haven't read in depth in any of the articles, but I'm seeing estimates of up to 7 and 8 states where Ron Paul could have a plurality. And again, if a plurality is people that aren't necessarily bound to Ron Paul, but would support Ron Paul having his name put in nomination, we could have a lot more out there. We have a lot more time between now and Tampa. We have to be optimistic. Our chances are, this is like getting ready to throw the touchdown pass to the goal line with the lawsuit. This is the tip of the spear right now for the Liberty movement. I mean, there's nothing else going on to get him nominated. There are a few actions going in various states about state delegations. We have something going in Oklahoma, but even if they win everything they want, that's not going to unbind all of the delegates. So it would just mean we have more Ron Paul delegates going to Tampa from Oklahoma. So the lawsuit's really the tip of the spear right now. And if we don't prevail, if the judge decides that that state rules govern, then that is a powerful statement for the entire electoral system, and we just have to go from there. But, you know, it's important that the liberty movement right now realize that whether Ron Paul wins or loses, you can't turn a country around by electing a president. You know, he would have his hands full. So what we need to do is get to take over our states. We need to turn our states into not blue states and not red states, but we need to turn it into free states. A free state would be a gold state, because liberty is the gold standard of politics. And that's what we have to do after Tampa and after November. We have to be concentrating on taking over our state political parties. We have to develop plans and platforms and programs to educate the people in our states what a free state would really be like. And then we have to recruit politicians, state legislators running for the House and Senate, and running for county commissioner and sheriffs, who all have a liberty agenda. And I really believe that if we had a proactive liberty agenda at the state level in all 50 states, we could transform the states and the nation in 4 years.
Okay, well, we have another caller. Let's jump to them. Caller on line 1079, what say you?
Derek, it's Robin Pugh Perry. How are you?
Hey, sweetie, how you doing?
I'm good. I just have a question. It has to do like practical nature of what's going on or not going on. I don't think there's enough feedback from the lawyers for Ron Paul back into at least the liberty movement, so folks can know what's going on. It's like things are way too low under the radar, and I can see a possibility of a judge coming back with a poor judgment, and nobody would ever know.
Robin,
I think there needs to be more feedback.
Robin, you know, great minds think alike, because that is the last segment of our show. We're going to deal with some of those concerns that people have specifically about lawyers for Ron Paul. But first, it was important that we gave Mr. Davis an opportunity to explain what was the end game and who the players were. So we've covered that. So now we're going to talk about some of the concerns that have been floating back and forth concerning that, to address some of your issues. So just hang tight, hang tight. Mr. Porter, we've been on for an hour. Do you think you could spend another 15 minutes to answer a few other questions from me?
However long you need, Derek. This is important. As she said, there's not enough publicity about the lawsuit, and there's been a lot of disinformation about what it is. And the quicker we can rectify that and shed the light of truth on it, the better off we all are.
Okay, well, let's get to it. And Mr. Porter, respectfully, I am going to ask if we can just make our answers short. That way I can get more questions in, because we don't need a long explanation. We just need a short answer as to the why. I just want to give the people the answer. People have some concern about past incidents with Mr. Gilbert. I'm not going to get into that, because myself, everybody's got a past. I got one. So I'm not here to do a character assassination. But many have said, because of some of the things in his past, this is one of the reasons why he is not available for interviews. Can you just tell us if that's true? And if not, why is it we can't get him to do interviews?
Well, I don't know why he's not available for interviews. He's certainly available for conference calls to talk about the lawsuit, but I don't know. I haven't talked with Richard or any of the staff about whether he has been available or not available.
Okay, yeah, the word is he'll do conference calls, but in the conference call, it's more of he controls the flow, and people are not free to ask the types of questions that they would like answers to, which is why I'm asking. Point out, Mr. Dave, that people add me to groups all the time on Facebook, and I'm not into the group dynamic. When I post on my page, anybody that has added me to a group, they get my posts automatically, and people don't like everything that I say, and they complain. The one thing that I said in favor of lawyers for Ron is when somebody complained, the admin went and said, TMOT's posts are always welcome here, even if it has nothing to do with what we are doing legally. So with me, you got some street cred, okay? Because an admin stood up and said, you know, it may not be about that, but TMOT is cool because he's talking about liberty. They could obviously see the forest and weren't focused on the tree of the lawsuit. So with that being said, I wanted to make sure that folk understood we didn't bring you on here to beat you up or to make accusations. We brought you on here so that you could shed some light and try and answer whatever questions you can. If you ain't got the answers, just don't have the answers, but at least they would have been asked and somebody would have attempted to ask them. So I just wanted to make sure I put that out there, Mr. Porter. My next question is this. People were concerned also about the interviews. They were saying that on the website that was once out there that Mr. Gilbert listed himself at Harvard, and somebody did some research and found that that was not so. Is there any truth to that at all?
I saw one mention of being popular with students at Harvard on Richard's website, but I've never seen anything on his website thing saying he was a Harvard graduate. Very clearly, if you look at his website, he graduated from 2 colleges, I think, in California.
Okay, all right. So asked and answered. So the site that you see, that's what it says now, but you've never seen the site that was up that did say that, because they're from what okay, all right, no problem. All right, next question is the lawsuit. People have concerns that you are attempting to raise money or collect donations from supporters, but nobody is clear on how this money is being spent, who is maintaining oversight, who are the members that are sitting on a board, if you have one. Can you address the issues about why it is you're collecting? We know why we collect donations, so that we can fight, but can you address the concerns as to oversight and disclosure, transparency, so to speak?
To my knowledge, there are no official fundraising activities whatsoever with our effort. I know some people have done, and I don't even know who did it, donated some money to help us get service done for the lawsuit in some of the states, but we never have any discussions. When we had the executive committee, we never had any discussions about raising money for the effort.
Okay, so there are no official fundraising efforts that you are aware of. All right, my next question is there a board of directors?
For the lawsuit? I don't think so.
Okay, so basically...
I mean, we have an attorney and we have some a staff of pro bono people helping to do all the work of assembling all these affidavits and so forth, but there is no... I mean, there's an informal operating group, if you will, but there's no board.
Okay.
I mean, there is no organization. There is no official organization. It's one of the reasons we're not doing any fundraising, because then we come under regulations that have to, the Federal Election Commission puts out there, and so we're staying away from all of that.
Okay. Well, that brings me to this question. You say there is no organization. In order to operate of structure as to how you're going to do things, who is responsible for that? I mean, you guys have to have some type of organizational meetings where you discuss strategy.
Yeah, we have an informal organization, but the members are not important. I don't, there are 1 or 2 people that keep trying to make some big deal out of it, and knew nothing about. I mean, I've learned a lot about a lot of the ego tripping that goes on inside the liberty movement. Give somebody a video cam and give them a web show, and all of a sudden they're hot stuff because they can talk, and that's not right. But I mean, there's an informal group of people that are working very hard to help this happen, but there's it's irrelevant. I mean, nobody knows who the staffers are in the Ron Paul campaign, and they don't question that. They may know of Jesse Benton's name and maybe John Tate's name, but they don't know who else is in the campaign. Doug Weed. But they have lots of people that they have hired, but nobody has concerns about that. But the critics, some of the critics of this campaign that have actually not been, they've been waging personal vendettas and just attacking. And it's tough to tell which are just egos out of whack and which are disinformation agents. But, you know, it's really not important. I came on your show without asking you who your advisors are to have your ground wars show, and it's the same kind of deal. It's like the Ron Paul, the Liberty Movement, really, the bigger thing works everywhere. We have self-organizing collectives, if you will, tribes of people that just form to get the work done. And that's the magic of why we have accomplished so much. So, you know, I think it's another red herring. I associate that with a small group of attackers for the lawsuit that have never come up with anything positive as an alternative to get Ron Paul the presidential nomination, and it's an irrelevant issue.
Okay, all right. I like that answer. And see, I'm show me the money. See, I'm patient enough to wait and see what's in the end game. You understand what I'm saying? And then I'll make my
If some money, we could have made a lot more progress, and we would get a lot more things done because we could actually pay some staff. But there is no paid staff.
Well, like you said, folk are doing it, you know, out of their dedication and commitment. So people should be pleased to know that there are no official fundraising. Nobody's down there trying to get rich under the guise, because that was the question. Are they just trying to funnel some money to themselves to try and line their pockets? And that was the rumor that was going around. So I wanted to ask the question, put it out there, and folk can make up their own mind.
Question the messenger, yes, I get it.
Yeah, okay.
That's their strategy.
Yeah, let's take a caller, because that's really, I have one other question that I'm going to ask you, but I'm going to wait and take these two callers first. Caller
Sure.
on line 7848, what say you? 7848 going once.
Oh, hi. My name's Tim. I'm a state delegate in Colorado, and
Hi,
I'm
Tim.
also a plaintiff on this suit.
Hi, Tim.
Hi. I watch all your stuff.
Thank you.
I'm also a former Democrat until last November, but I fought my way through. But I'm with this all the way, and I think this is really going to. People need to recognize it's going to have an effect in Tampa. If all the delegates are unbound, Romney doesn't have any support there. We've got 1 million planned supporters going there. I'm going there with a group. We're doing a flash mob dance all the way there, getting supporters along the way. But I really think it's going to have effect when they see how passionate we are, these delegates, and then they're going to open up to Ron's message. And I really think it's going to have a big effect if these guys realize that they might have to vote for that crony.
I agree.
And I appreciate everything you guys do. And I've been in many conference calls with where Mr. Porter was, and I work with. My wife is the one actually that served the suit on the local Republican Party. So I'm glad to be a part of this, and I'm with you guys all the way. And I really want to get involved with that, with the legal part of it, because I have a lot of history in doing legal work. So, and I'm working with David Callahan, and I've researched every part of this, and I can't see the only thing I can see is benefit for the. They're going to have to, if we win this, the mainstream media is going to have to say something. You know, they can't totally ignore us. And then it'll give us an opportunity to get Ron Paul's message out there even more, to wake these sheeple up.
Well, all right then. I heard that. We're all on the same page. Get the message out, get people activated, get them motivated. Thank you very much for that call.
Let's be on board with you, man. Co-plaintiffs, way to go. Let's talk in Tampa, okay?
All right, we got another caller on line 2266. 2266, what say you? Do you have a question for Mr. Porter Davis?
Am I on 2266?
I don't know. You called me.
Oh, they didn't give me a number. Hey, TMOT, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. This is Lori Mills. I'm your friend. But anyways, just quick questions. When do you expect a judgment on the lawsuit, and will it be before the convention? And also, the Massachusetts delegates that were taken from us, is that any part of this lawsuit? And does anybody know how many states we really have, because the numbers go from 4 to 11.
Well, I don't know if anybody knows. I haven't had time to really delve into it deeply, but I'm focused on the lawsuit right now. It's a bit. I'm sorry. What was your first question you had?
I know. I tried to talk fast because I want to give other people
Just
time.
ask one at a time. Just ask him one at a time. We go ahead.
Okay. When do you expect a judgment on the lawsuit, and will it be before the convention?
Well, we're hoping we'll have the case heard we're hoping by the end of the first week in August. That's what I heard today. I was talking with, David Callahan is one of our volunteers. He's basically operations manager for helping to organize all of this stuff, and he was telling me that today. So we hope it's going to be before the convention. If it's not going to be very helpful.
No, it's not. That's why I wanted to ask. Also, Massachusetts delegates that were supposed to sign the affidavit and were thrown out. Is that part of this lawsuit?
No, we have one Massachusetts delegate, as I understand. I've talked to some of those delegates, and it's very strange. They've got this idea that they're going to go back and work inside the Republican Party and be nicey-nicey over the next 2 to 4 years. And, I'm thinking, is this where the Boston Tea Party took place? Is this where the revolution was fomented? And these people want to go be nicey-nicey with the GOP over the next 2 to 4 years. They ought to be on here. But we've talked with them, but we understand that there's a lot of communication with one of the head people there for the Liberty Movement and top people in the Paul campaign. So that would be another, if there is, that would be another evidence of what I would call sabotage.
Well, rumor has it that Jesse Benton told them not to get involved.
That's what I've heard. I have no substantiation of that, but I have heard that.
Okay, and then you don't know how many states we have?
I really don't. I've seen the figures around different places, probably like you have. I've frankly been extremely busy the last 3 or 4 days. I do think that the Nebraska thing set up as the one we had to have. I think that was a disinformation operation. I don't think we had to have it. I think it was just another diversion here. And the idea that all of these that binding and non-binding distinctions have no effect on nominated candidate's name, that's really important. I mean, we can have states right now where we could have a plurality in a state. Right now, we don't even think we do. But by the time we get to the convention, maybe a plurality of the delegates to that state decide, hey, I'd really rather have Ron Paul and at least like to have his name in nomination. We're going to start spreading that conversation. Why not have his name in nomination? Why not show that we're a party where we can have a clash of ideas and actually have a convention that actually has meaning to it? It's not just some meaningless coronation where all the delegates are just props in a play where they had to pay a lot of money to go through this being part of a 4-day stage production. That's what they want it to be. But I think if we had a real nomination of Ron Paul and even some of the others, let the others be nominated from the floor. Let's have them talk to the convention. Let's actually have a conversation there and see where we are today, because we know we've had a lot of election fraud. So why not have a conversation and give the other people a chance too?
Absolutely. I agree with you. Well, thank you, TMOT, and thank you for your time. I really Paul 2012.
Okay. By the way, I just got a note that if a plurality of 5 states have been confirmed, binding does not affect the nomination. That just came out apparently via Ben Swan. So I thought I'd pass that on.
I saw that today. Okay. Yeah, because Nevada, they took Nevada from us, and we know we have plurality there as well. So anyway, God bless you guys. Thank you.
God bless you. All right, we have a caller on line 7572. What say you?
This is Michelle. How are you?
Hey, Michelle, how are you?
I say Ron Paul or none at all.
I heard that. Do you have a question for Mr. Davis?
I do, actually. I see a number of those that are associated with the suit talking about how it's about the delegates, and I understand that. I'm wondering if there's been anything done to help them in addition to the suit, meaning there's a hearing for the motion to dismiss, but that isn't until August. I'm wondering if they're being encouraged to not take other avenues of contesting the unduly seated delegates, and if the judge decides to dismiss it at that point, it's already too late to follow the proper channels to contest it on the convention floor. So I'm wondering if they're being encouraged to do that, or if they're being encouraged to not take any other additional steps if they wait for that hearing that's on August the 6th. It's going to be past the 30-day time frame to file a contest with the RNC.
We would be very happy for each state where they've experienced election fraud and can come up with a cause of action. We would be very happy for them to do whatever they can within the party and outside the party legally to get recourse for the election fraud that's taken place. In Oklahoma, there is a group that has we elected an alternate slate of general delegates in the parking lot convention, 25 delegates and 25 alternates. And in the convention that was illegally adjourned, they elected 25 that the state executive committee had appointed and 25 alternates. And so we do have an action going with that through the RNC right now. And we certainly encourage that to take place. So we're not out. We don't have any extra energy to put in to say, hey, why don't you guys go do that? But anybody that wants to can talk to the people in Oklahoma and elsewhere. I think Massachusetts might be doing something there, but there may be some other states. But we have no problem with them doing that. They're different actions.
Right, and that was my question mainly, is if it would be discouraged, if the attorney would be discouraging that for any reason. I don't know why, because it wouldn't be another legal proceeding. But you know how if you're involved in litigation, you can only refer to one attorney. So I was just wondering if they were running a plan, if the delegates were being encouraged to run a plan B. Otherwise, if they wait, the time frame is gone. They have a 30-day time frame.
I'm sorry, we have not encouraged them to set other actions going because we're trying to just take care of what we have. Well, if you think about this undertaking, it's massive, and we don't have scores of lawyers to hire like the Romney campaign can. This is all being done by volunteers and people who study the law and semi-paralegals and Richard Gilbert, and spent a gargantuan effort to pull this off. But we don't have not discouraged in any way other people taking actions, but we get discouraged when we have situations like Massachusetts where they won't also become plaintiffs in the lawsuit, because they should be poster children for this, the way they've been treated. And as it is, they're just rolling over. And we're seeing this in other states, too.
They're stealing the election. So I agree with you wholeheartedly there. It took them 50 states to figure out how to do it without breaking the rules in Nebraska. You know, Nebraska was one of the first and few only conventions that I saw that they actually were able to pull off the majority without breaking the rules or breaking bones or locking doors. So it's pretty discouraging to watch and see them able to get away with that. I just wanted to feel assured that the delegates are taking all avenues that are available to them, because this is a chance we don't get again.
All right.
All right. So,
listen, we're
thank you, TMOT.
Not a problem. Thank you for calling in. We're getting ready to close out the show. If there are any callers that have questions in the chat room that you would like to show, you need to get them in now. We got one more caller, Mr. Davis, and then I'm going to ask my final question. Caller on line 3423, what say you?
Can you hear me okay?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, then I must can hear you.
All right, can I speak?
Yes, you can speak. You're doing just fine so far.
All right, I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so happy to be talking with you, Timo.
TMOT works.
And TMOT, excuse me.
That's okay.
And Porter. Hi, Porter. How are you? This is Ian in New York.
Hi, Ian. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, man. I'm want to link up because the next time you do a show, I want to promote it through. I just want to say one of the issues that I was talking to Porter today about was whether it really matters whether we go to Tampa. And I have a lot of other things to do. But if Ron Paul wants us to go to Tampa, I'm going to go to Tampa. And, I run Ron Paul 1, TMOT. Have you had a chance to see the website, Ron Paul 1?
No, I don't recall. I've seen so many sites. I may have seen it.
It's one of the many. But we have a kind of directive where we're just, I've been almost exclusively. But the next step for this website is to help people get accommodations around the convention center, which is called the Tampa Bay Times Forum. And we want to coordinate people who want to go there and help them get their hotel and airfare. We may have 10 million people there from around the world. You understand what I'm saying? I have friends in Canada who support Ron Paul. I have friends in Japan who support Ron Paul. We have a whole bunch of videos on YouTube. Spain for Ron Paul, the Spanish people, Spain, because they're having a revolution now too. This is definitely an American thing, but it's actually a worldwide thing too. You know the expression, if Ron Paul is president, everyone would benefit, and that means everyone on the planet Earth. That's why people are saying this is such an important big thing. It's not just getting a Republican or a Democrat in office. We're talking about changing the whole world. And I think us guys, and you, Porter and myself, we got to talk more about amplification. So as many people know about this ahead of time. So those who can get to Tampa can go there. Not everyone's going to have the money to go or the time. But there will be millions and millions and millions of people. If we notify them ahead of time, Tampa's going to be a Ron Paul universe. August 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Well, listen,
Rivas is going to be in jail. He'll be in jail by then.
Listen, do they need to go to your website for more details on how to connect with you to get down there?
They can, and the website is in the baby steps. We have a page. The second page is called Destination Tampa.
Okay.
And we're just starting to coordinate so people can get a hotel or figure out they might stay with a house. All the hotels are going to be filled, okay? So people are going to be staying in private residences.
Okay.
And in neighboring cities. We're going to help people so that they don't feel like, they're going to be lost in the crowd.
Okay.
And like
it would be very cool to get 1 million people there. 10 million would even be more cool.
All right, hold up, guys.
Visualize that,
Hold
but
up,
it would be
guys.
very interesting to see that city jammed with people coming there as a show of support.
Okay, great. Listen, we had everybody trying to talk at one time. Caller, I appreciate you calling in. Reach out to Mr. Porter Davis at any time. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to work with you. We may even do a show on that, but let us know when you get that site up, and we'll be more than happy to share that information. Mr. Porter Davis, I'm going to ask you my last question, and we're going to close this show out. I'll give you a parting shot, 2 minutes. How about that? At any rate, my question is this. In principle, I support your cause, the people that you're working with. I support that cause. I think it's a great idea. I don't see how it could hurt the campaign. Now, I'm putting aside all the rumors because I don't do the rumor mill. I go by what I see. And again, as I recounted, my personal experience with the Lawyers for Ron Paul group was a pleasant one. There was at least one principled person in that group, and you seem to be a principled man yourself. And I appreciate that, and I applaud the work that you're doing. I shall just sit back and see what happens. Even if your efforts are not successful, I still applaud you for the attempt, because nothing beats a failure but a try. Now here is my question, and this is the last of the concerns that people have talked about. You and I talked about this when we first met this evening, that jack of all trades, master of none. Again, my job is I'm not here to do character assassination, but one of the concerns that I have seen in several places is that of Mr. Gilbert's experience, it is that he has no real specialty in a particular area of law as it relates to practice like divorce law or civil litigation, criminal law, things of that nature. That has been a concern for some people, and that concern comes down to this. If he is not the best lawyer that you guys could have chosen, he may get a poor judgment by mere virtue of his lack of sufficient skill. I would just like for you to address that, and then you have the final parting shot.
Well, the fact is that Richard Gilbert is our lawyer. He's the one who has seen this law. We don't have any other person besides him working with us right now. So he is the lawyer right now. He's the one we're going with, and he's the one that we have confidence in. So, you know, all these questions about whether he's qualified or not, I'd say, you know, if you've got somebody that's better, please bring them to us. The plaintiffs can use all the help we can get. So anybody out there that thinks they know somebody better and that they can get them to work pro bono, or if they want to pay their way to help us, we will take all the help we can get, because more minds will help. But so far, nobody else has stepped up to the plate and done anything at all like this. So, you know, as Richard's always saying, one of the things that the critics all have in common is that none of them have their own plan to get Ron Paul the presidential nomination. The closest I've heard is not to unbind the delegates, but to go on a full court press of a charm campaign and make friends with them and persuade them to liberty. And I would not dissuade them from that at all. But if they're unbound, our job will be so much easier. I mean, ultimately, we have to be good ambassadors for liberty and the liberty movement. We have to appreciate that there are probably any number of people who are delegates and who've came into politics through Barry Goldwater or Ronald Reagan or Pat Robertson, and they had very high ideals. But as they got involved in the party structure, they did what happens with so many politicians to elected office, and they start making a compromise here and making a compromise there and doing something for political expediency here and taking a hit for the team there. And pretty soon, they're just a mere shadow of the selves they used to be when they had idealism. And they, you know, they would say that's because they're being realistic. But what we've seen is a lot of the anger we've had from establishment Republicans in Oklahoma is because the young liberty movement people represent a purity and an idealism that those people have abandoned. And so I would urge everyone to reach out to all of the delegates and try to make friends with them and start talking about philosophies and how important this election is that we have. We may not have another presidential election that means anything, even if this one does. I don't know right now whether it's not all going to be foreordained just by rigging the election machines. But we have to operate in faith and hope and step forward and think that God's on our side in this and recognize that this is a spiritual movement and that come hell or high water, we have to restore liberty in this country. We have no choice. That's our ultimate goal here. And all the detractors that are actually not coming up with other alternatives or have to knock down this one, I think are doing the liberty movement a disservice. It's going to take all of our efforts together, all of our talents, all of our temperaments, and we're not going to do it just in one presidential election, even if Ron Paul gets the election. Even if he wins, we're going to need lots of people in there. We're going to have to help him staff with good people and not people that are going to sell him out. So, you know, this just happens to be the tip of the iceberg right now. But after this election, we all need to go to the states and transform our states into free states. We don't all have to move to New Hampshire to live in a free state. We can all blossom where we're planted and turn our own states into free states in the next 4 years.
There you go, and that is the purpose of ground wars. He and I have said, if not once, I've said it 100 times. Even if Ron Paul won, he can't do it by himself. We need to start cleaning house, and we need to start at the grassroots level. Mr. Davis, you and I, we are on the same page, sir, and you have the floor with me. So I won't sit back and second chair your efforts. You go, and you go with God's speed. Now, you may have lost a few supporters when you say this is a spiritual movement, because you know, people hate when I talk about God and my involvement in this movement. But that is what it is. I applaud you. Keep doing what you do. And we are signing off. Thank you very much. I hope to see you again, and I hope to see you in Tampa. I certainly will be there.
This is about liberty.
This is about freedom. It is about cleaning house from the corrupt politicians pandering to special interests.
Now is the time. We know what needs to be done. It ain't about us. We're doing this for our country. We will stand and be heard. We will be silent no more.
So get up off your ass, get those boots on the ground, and let's do this thing. Freedom! I am not driving. This is 3D interactive technology. Makes it look like I'm driving. Those cars look almost real going by, don't they?
In the dark of Christmas night, 1776, units of the Continental Army under General George Washington crossed the Delaware River in stormy weather as part of a surprise attack against Hessian troops quartered in Trenton, New Jersey. Many of the men following Washington that night had no shoes and only a handful of bullets in their pockets, bullets they had intended to use to feed their families till spring. Compared to the sacrifices of those many brave men, how much less is it these days to not buy that second cheeseburger at lunch tomorrow? There are hundreds of good causes supporting liberty. We are one of them here at FBN. With your help, we'll make it to Tampa and beyond.
Go to the gentleman back here. Please identify. Let's get a microphone to you.
Mr. Chairman, good afternoon. I'm Major Christopher Miller of St. Charles County, United States Marine Corps, retired. I just served 27 years in the Marine Corps, retired less than a year ago, and moved here to Missouri. I've served multiple combat tours as an explosive ordnance disposal officer, disarming bombs and leading bomb disposal technicians in combat. I'm tired of these wars. Our Marine Corps is tired of these wars. The whole armed services are tired of these wars, and we're tired of these so-called Republicans and so-called Democrats that give us the same garbage, who are no different from one another. We are tired of it. Ron Paul is the only candidate who represents any change. We are tired of the Obama change and the Obamacare and all the other Obama garbage. I do not believe that Mr. Romney, Governor Romney, is going to give us anything else than more Obama garbage. We need real change. We don't need more of the same. Our country cannot stand any more of the same. We need real change.
Imagine keeping a third more of your income. You could support an entire family with that income. Imagine the life you would enjoy together. Imagine families reunited after years of war. Imagine America restored, a city set on a hill, a guiding light to all nations. Imagine Ron Paul as president.